I am tired, it's cold, oh man, uncomfortable, optimistic still. I don't know what's going on, but it's not the best. It's not looking the best at all.
Another day of travel woes for millions across the country. Packed airports, busy roads, and more difficult weather to deal with coast to coast, adding delays to an already busy travel week. Hello, I'm Dasha Burns in for Gadi Schwartz, and you're watching Stay Tuned Now. Today is expected to be one of the busiest travel days on the road. And with severe storms washing up on both coasts, there's a good chance that drive will be a challenging one. 10 million people were under flood alerts earlier today along the East Coast, with evacuation warnings issued in some beach towns.
Holy holy that's gonna go all the way down the lane.
Whoa there. And same deal on the West Coast. Rough surf creating dangerous conditions by the water, leading to flooding in many areas. And all that wet weather is causing a headache at airports, too, where people are already dealing with delays due to a high volume of travelers. Take the situation in Palm Beach, Florida, for instance.
I have never seen this line this long. It is really, I've been coming here my whole life, and yeah, it's never past those black things.
NBC News correspondent Erin McLaughlin has more.
As more than 100 million Americans travel ahead of the new year, wet weather washing out parts of the West Coast, with potentially deadly riptides and flooding in California. To the north, coastal communities ordered to evacuate due to life-threatening waves.
Everyone okay?
While in the south, some residents getting out any way they can.
Pushed in probably like a storm, like a surge. You know, the water couldn't get out.
Meanwhile, on the East Coast, a slippery slog.
There was a lot of flooding, so I'm glad we left early and got out on time.
With heavy rains causing flooding in Philly and beyond. While in the plains, they're digging out after a dangerous ice storm, knocking out power for thousands.
There's a lot of power lines that are down. It's going to take a long time to put those back up.
This on one of the most congested days to be out on the road.
Bumper to bumper traffic the whole way there and the whole way back.
Instead of flying where they charge you for every baggages and stuff like that, I just throw everything on the top of the car.
Still, millions choosing to brave America's airports.
We are at the height of holiday travel season,
with many airlines experiencing delays. Today, Southwest had more than 900, according to FlightAware. In Florida, a logjam due to overwhelming demand. Some travelers even spending the night.
I am tired, it's cold, oh man, uncomfortable.
But for much of the country, the rare holiday gift of relatively smooth air travel.
It was pretty easy to get down here, and yeah, I'd say pleasantly surprised.
Erin McLaughlin, thanks so much. And whether it's the skies or the roads, the next couple of days will be busy regardless of what type of weather we're dealing with. AAA is projecting more than 150 million people will be traveling this holiday week, and the majority of those folks will be driving. NBC News correspondent Marissa Parra has a look at the road conditions on one of the busiest travel days of the year. Marissa?
Hey, Dasha, it has been raining here in South Florida for pretty much the entire day, hence the reason why I'm wearing a rain jacket. And even though it's cleared out, we're still seeing the impacts, especially when it comes to holiday travel, whether it's travelers taking to the skies or taking to the roads. And we know that road travel is the most popular form of travel. 104 million travelers of the 115 expected to be taken to the roads across the holiday season, which includes both Christmas and New Year's. We had a chance to speak to a AAA spokesperson about why today, Thursday, is expected to be one of the busiest days of the travel season. Here's what she had to say.
The problem is this is a work week for many people still. So people will be getting off work around 5 p.m., 6 p.m. And if you're hitting the road late afternoon, you're going to be mixing with those people, especially in major metro areas.
Now, when it comes to holiday travel, the records are really being set in the airline industry, even the cruise ship industry. Those same records are not being set nationally when it comes to driving, except for on a state-by-state basis. States like Florida, AAA says they're expecting a record number of Florida drivers across this holiday season. And so I will end on a good note here, Dasha. Gas prices are about the same right now as they were this time last year. And we have seen nothing close to the meltdown that we saw with Southwest this time last year as well. So there's some positivity in all of this. If you've seen some traffic, you've seen some delays, it could always be worse.
Marissa Para, always looking for a silver lining. Thank you so much. And tonight, a senior Israeli official warns of a wider war in the Middle East. War Cabinet member Benny Gantz says Israel will ramp up attacks against Lebanon if the world doesn't intervene to stop Hezbollah. Israel and Hezbollah have been exchanging rocket fire nearly every day since the war began. Gantz says if that does happen, the next stage of fighting will be, quote, powerful, deep, and surprising. He also warns that time for negotiations to end fighting with Hamas is running out. Today, Israeli rockets fell on the southern city of Rafah, killing at least 20 people. Rescue teams scrambled to save those buried under the rubble. A warning, some of what you're about to see is disturbing. Stuck under that debris was a toddler. Rescuers managed to dig her out and rushed her to get medical attention. There's no update on her current condition, and she is just one of thousands of kids injured in this war. Today, the Israeli military issued a rare statement about being at fault, saying it, quote, regrets the harm to uninvolved individuals in an attack carried out on the Gaza Strip on Christmas Eve, which killed dozens of civilians. Meanwhile, back in the U.S., people are mourning the death of Judy Weinstein. The American, Israeli, and Canadian citizen was killed alongside her husband on October 7th. A spokesperson for their kibbutz confirmed today their bodies are being held captive by Hamas. NBC News correspondent Jay Gray has more.
We are learning that a second American Israeli hostage has died. Judy Weinstein, 70 years old, the mother of 4, grandmother of 7, was shot during the October 7th attacks along with her husband, Gadi, who was 73. Last week, we confirmed that Haggai had died, and now we know that his wife has passed away as well. It's still unclear exactly when or where they may have died. As we said, wounded during the attacks, but it's not known if they died at the kibbutz during those attacks or later died during captivity in Gaza. At this point, the State Department says there are at least 6 Americans missing and presumed to be being held hostage in Gaza. That news comes as we now know the Secretary of State will make his 5th trip to the region next week. Antony Blinken, no doubt, will be talking about the hostages and trying to get Israel and Hamas back to the bargaining table. 129 hostages remain in Gaza, and that's going to be a primary focus of what's going to be going on during those talks. Let's talk a little about the fighting in Gaza. Continues to be very intense on the ground, focused in central Gaza. We know that those troops on the ground are not only looking to find and then eliminate the tunnel system in that region, but they believe that's an area that is filled with the command and control centers for Hamas, and so that's a target as well. That's the latest from here in Tel Aviv. I'm Jay Gray. Now back to you.
Jay, thank you so much. Officials in Mexico cleared out a migrant camp near the Rio Grande today, a move that seems to be a sign that Mexico is beginning to do what the U.S. is asking, which is to crack down on the growing number of people at the border. But the U.S. is now putting even more pressure on Mexico to do something about the surge of migrants at the southern border, which is a focus of the high-level talks this week between Secretary of State Blinken and Mexico's president. NBC News correspondent Morgan Chesky has more.
Yeah, Dasha, good evening. 24 hours after this really pivotal meeting took place in Mexico City, we are starting to glean a bit more about what was discussed and potential solutions between the U.S. and Mexico in handling this surge in migrant crossings. And what we do know, despite this being a closed-door meeting, are that both sides are calling this a productive and successful crossing of paths between Secretary of State Blinken and the U.S. delegation when they sat down with the Mexican president. Some key areas to look to in the new year when it comes to changes going forward will be increased security on both sides of the border from a law enforcement standpoint. The U.S. promising to repatriate more migrants, as Mexico promised to crack down more on those smugglers who facilitate so many people to the U.S.-Mexico border, often at the personal and financial expense of these migrant families. Mexico also asked the U.S. if they could try to keep lines, railroad lines open. We do know that they were recently closed after hundreds of migrants were seen riding freight trains, but the Mexican president acknowledged the impact that has on commerce between the two countries and said that it was critical to keep them open if possible. He also made a point prior to this meeting, Dasha, of saying that long-term solutions are not going to come from building more border barriers or adding more barbed wire to the banks of the Rio Grande. Basically, a veiled mention to Governor Greg Abbott's efforts over the last several weeks and months. The Mexican president said that ties need to be reestablished with these Central American countries where so many of these migrants are coming from. We do know a large number of them were seen in the Mexican state of Chiapas over the last week. At one point, organizers of that migrant caravan said they numbered about 8,000, but at last check, the Mexican president said that number closer to about 1,600. They are making their way north. If they make that journey, more than 1,000 miles left at this point to the U.S.-Mexico border remains to be seen. But the one thing acknowledged by multiple parties here is that the levels coming are unsustainable and that help is needed on both sides.
Welcome back. Here are some of the other headlines we're watching tonight. We're learning more about the head-on car crash in Texas that killed 6 people, including 2 children, and injured 3 on Tuesday. Investigators say a 17-year-old driving a Chevrolet truck crossed a highway and struck a minivan carrying members of a family. The 3 who survived the crash, including the driver of the truck, were all in critical condition as of this morning. Republican Representative Lauren Boebert announced she will not seek re-election in her current congressional district, but will instead run for a nearby seat that's in a district that's more Republican-leaning. She'll be running in Colorado's 4th congressional district, where Republican Representative Ken Buck said he would not run. That means she'll avoid a rematch with Democratic opponent Adam Frisch, who she narrowly defeated in last year's midterms. Transgender youth in Idaho can continue to legally seek gender-affirming care for now, after a federal judge blocked a controversial law just days before taking effect. According to the law, Idaho doctors who provide puberty blockers, hormones, or surgeries could face up to 10 years in prison. The judge says the bill violates the 14th Amendment to guarantee equal protection and due process. Herb Kohl, former U.S. Senator and former owner of the NBA's Milwaukee Bucks, has died. His philanthropy group said he died after a brief illness. He was 88 years old. And global superstar Ariana Grande is releasing a new album next year. The Grammy Award winner teased the new project on her Instagram page. It will be her first album since 2020. And we have some breaking news to report. Former President Donald Trump has been removed from the primary ballot in Maine. The decision was made moments ago by Maine's Secretary of State. Maine is now the 2nd state in the country to disqualify Trump from running again under a section of the Constitution that keeps insurrectionists from holding office. Last week, the Colorado Supreme Court ruled that Trump could be taken off the ballot in that state. Just yesterday, Colorado Republicans asked the U.S. Supreme Court to take a look at the case. The Maine decision is expected to be appealed in state court. Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley did not mention slavery when asked what caused the Civil War while speaking at a town hall in New Hampshire last night. The criticism was swift. Today, she tried to make amends.
Of course, the Civil War was about slavery. We know that. That's unquestioned. always the case. We know the Civil War was about slavery. But it was also more than that. It was about the freedoms of every individual.
Last night, the former South Carolina governor said the Civil War, quote, basically how the government was going to run, the freedoms and what people could and couldn't do. Then she accused the person asking the question of being a Democratic plant. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles has more.
Tonight, Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley in cleanup mode after leaving out slavery as a root cause of the Civil War during a town hall in New Hampshire on Wednesday.
What do you want me to say about slavery?
No, you answered my question. Thank you.
Next question.
Haley spent Thursday attempting to explain what she meant.
Of course, the Civil War was about slavery.
And make clear the role slavery played in American history.
We know the Civil War was about slavery, but it was also more than that. It was about the freedoms of every individual.
Her opponents seized on the comments. President Joe Biden responding, quote, it was about slavery. And GOP rival Ron DeSantis arguing she isn't ready for the big stage.
The minute that she faces any type of scrutiny, she tends to cave.
As governor of South Carolina, Haley pushed for the removal of a Confederate flag on display on the Capitol grounds after a mass shooting at a black church in Charleston, carried out by a white supremacist.
It's time to move the flag from the Capitol grounds.
She made that decision after intense pressure by African-American leaders in the wake of the massacre. The firestorm comes as Haley is gaining ground on the clear frontrunner, former President Donald Trump. Trump has routinely used divisive rhetoric and recently made racist comments about migrants and minority groups.
They're poisoning the blood of our country. That's what they've done.
But Trump's controversial words have done little to change the trajectory of the race. And these comments come at a make-or-break moment for the Haley campaign, with polls showing Donald Trump leading by more than double digits, and just 18 days to go before Iowa and less than 30 days before New Hampshire.
Ryan Nobles, thanks so much. The GOP already has a busy 2024 ahead of them with a crowded presidential field and its leading candidate facing a slew of legal challenges. NBC News senior Capitol Hill correspondent Garrett Haake takes a look at what's to come.
The strength of Donald Trump's hold on the Republican Party is one of the first questions 2024 may answer. The GOP presidential field, which peaked with more than a dozen active candidates in 2023, ends the year with just 5 credible campaigns remaining, and polling shows the Republican race remains Donald Trump's to lose.
So we're leading with 51%, while Ron DeSanctimonious is at less than 19 and Haley is at 60. What happened to the Haley surge?
The early states gauntlet of Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, and South Carolina likely to winnow the field still further before what could be a decisive Super Tuesday on March 5th. Trump's biggest roadblock on the path to the convention and nomination in July may not be another candidate at all, but his legal challenges, including 91 criminal charges spread across 4 cases, and a civil fraud trial set to conclude in January, which has already bogged him down in New York. He's denied all charges.
I should be right now in Iowa and New Hampshire, South Carolina. I shouldn't be sitting in a courthouse.
January could prove a pivotal month on Capitol Hill, too, with the first of 2 government funding deadlines, which could lead to a partial shutdown, even as negotiators resume work on a stalled bill to send aid to Israel and Ukraine and overhaul immigration policy.
Negotiations will continue in earnest until we get there.
All while House Republicans' impeachment inquiry aims to pick up steam.
We expect to depose the president's son, and then we will be more than happy to have a public hearing with him.
The House will face those challenges with a majority somehow even slimmer than the one they began with in 2023, when they struggled for days to elect Kevin McCarthy as Speaker in an historic 15 ballots. He won't have the votes. With McCarthy, who made history a second time when he was ousted from the speakership by 8 rogue Republicans in October, retiring from Congress in December.
I would do it all again.
And New York's George Santos, who practically rewrote the definition of congressional scandal.
If I leave, they win.
Expelled in disgrace and facing federal prosecution. And while new House Speaker Mike Johnson continues to learn on the job, top Senate Republican Mitch McConnell will likely remain the subject of speculation over how long he'll hold on to his leadership post after a March concussion contributed to 2 frightening freezes for the 81-year-old.
All right, I'm sorry, you all. We're going to need a minute.
Whoever's in charge, the party's key issues in 2024 seem set, addressing border security and the economy uniting them.
I think we need to prove in 2024 that we have the policies and the will and the ability to make those differences.
And finding consensus on abortion, and yes, Trump, among the issues that divide the party's old guard from the new.
The focus has to be just completely right now on making sure we don't return Donald Trump to the White House.
So what are we going to learn about Republicans in 2024?
That we're going to win. That's what you're going to learn. It's going to be tumultuous. It's going to be issues. It's going to be disagreements. But guess what? There's disagreements in every household in America.
Garrett Haake, NBC News, Washington.
The Bidens are ringing in the new year in the U.S. Virgin Islands this year. The president, first lady, and granddaughter Natalie have plans to stay there for the week. But the trip comes as Biden faces mounting pressure to address crises here in America and abroad. NBC News correspondent Aaron Gilchrist has more.
Dasha, the president is wrapping up his first full day of vacation here on St. Croix. This has been a working vacation for the president. He, of course, has been monitoring what's been going on in Israel and Gaza, as well as conversations around what's happening at the southern border with Mexico. We know the president earlier today put out a statement saying that his administration will continue to work to bring home the hostages that are being held in Gaza. That's something that he's talked about repeatedly since this conflict began in Gaza on October 7th. At the same time, we know the president has been monitoring what's been going on at the U.S.-Mexico border. His Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, as well as his Secretary of Homeland Security, making that trip to Mexico yesterday and talking about progress. That was a statement that came from the National Security Council, that there had been progress. It had been a productive trip to Mexico, and that the teams that were there will continue to work on some of the key issues that were addressed in that meeting when they meet in Washington next week to talk about root causes of the migration issues that are flowing through Mexico to the U.S. border. We also, of course, have heard that Secretary of State Tony Blinken will be making another trip to the Middle East. And so we have these issues that are still going on in different parts of the world, and the president is staying engaged. We can note for you that his national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, is with him here on St. Croix. And so as updates are needed to be given to the president, he is here to provide that information to the president, who, while he is on vacation, obviously is still expected to be working through that time.
Welcome back. Here are some of the stories happening out west that we're following. Actor Danny Masterson has been moved to state prison in Bakersfield, California, about 140 miles outside of Los Angeles. His new prison mugshot was also released. Masterson was convicted on 2 counts of rape back in September. He's serving a life sentence, but he's appealing his conviction. The verdict stems back to 2003 while he was starring in the hit series That 70s Show. Hotel workers in Pasadena, California say they are planning to strike at 2 hotels this New Year's Eve, which of course is right before the Rose Parade on New Year's Day. The hospitality union there says both the Hilton and Hyatt Place have not reached labor agreements. New Year's weekend is expected to be the biggest for Pasadena in the last 3 years. Both the Rose Parade and the Rose Bowl are back without pandemic-era restrictions. Also in California, the San Diego Zoo has an interesting new animal exhibit. The Lord Howe Island stick insect, also called the tree lobster, is considered the rarest insect on Earth. Scientists even thought they were extinct. Apparently, invasive rats in Australia almost wiped them out, but conservation efforts are helping the tiny insect rebound. Gypsy Rose Blanchard was released from a Missouri prison today. The young woman served time for helping murder her abusive mother back in 2015. Blanchard is viewed by some as a sympathetic hero for the abuse she endured at the hands of her mother. Her story gained popularity in the Emmy Award-winning show The Act. Now, Blanchard is sharing her plans for the future. NBC News correspondent Jesse Kirsch has more.
Tonight, we're seeing some of the first images of Gypsy Rose Blanchard,
finally freed from a Missouri correctional center today after spending the better part of a decade behind bars for her role in a high-profile plot to kill her allegedly abusive mother back in 2015. She conspired with her then-boyfriend, who's serving life in prison for the fatal stabbing of Gypsy's mother, Dee. Gypsy alleges her mother forced her for years to pretend she was critically ill, even using a wheelchair and having as many as 30 surgeries.
How is this going to stay with her for the rest of her life?
We've been running support groups for adult survivors like Gypsy. She'll have PTSD. She might engage in somatizing behaviors, which is where you focus on physical small things, but you exaggerate them or you worry about them excessively, or you turn psychological pain into physical symptoms.
Gypsy's case captivated the nation, inspiring an Emmy-winning dramatized series.
Real world, not until now. It's almost like we're in a Disney movie.
And yesterday, she was the #1 search on Google. Before her release, Blanchard telling People magazine, "I want to make sure that people in abusive relationships do not resort to murder." Now the 32-year-old Blanchard moving forward with the world watching. Jesse Kirsch, NBC News.
The house where 4 University of Idaho students were murdered last year has officially been demolished. But it's not coming without controversy. Families of the victims wanted the house preserved. NBC News correspondent Dana Griffin explains why and what happens next in the death penalty case.
Within hours, the University of Idaho demolished the home where Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Madison Mogan, and Kaylee Gonzalez were stabbed to death.
You know, it's nice to see the house come down.
2 victims' families pleaded with the university and prosecutor's office to halt the demolition until after the trial, saying it could still be relevant to the jury. The court has yet to set a date for that trial. The prosecution argues that they've already collected measurements for any possible exhibits, and due to Idaho code, a jury walkthrough wouldn't be authorized.
Getting rid of this daily reminder of the horrific event that happened here is a relief and a step in healing.
The university acknowledging security concerns and the $700 daily fee to protect the property factored into their decision. Prosecutors have requested a 6-week summer trial date in the death penalty case. Legal experts believe the defense will seek a venue transfer to a larger city with a larger jury pool.
How much does that disrupt the timeline of getting to trial?
You know, that shouldn't change things. In fact, that might speed things up a little bit because you get a larger jury pool. You might be able to find a jury faster.
And away from this small town, still healing from the brutal murders. Dana Griffin, NBC News.
This year, a massive amount of people lost access to Medicaid after pandemic-era protections expired. NBC News Daily anchor Zincle Esemwa takes a closer look at what's happening in Texas, where more people have lost coverage than anywhere else in the country.
We've been seeing a lot of patients that have no idea that their Medicaid ended.
Across the country, millions of Medicaid subscribers are at risk of losing health insurance.
And when one doesn't have access to insurance, those decisions are being made based on, am I really as sick as I think I am? Do I really need to go?
In Austin, Texas, Community Care Health Centers, a network offering free and low-cost care, is scrambling, not just to re-enroll, but also to educate the community on how to keep their coverage.
We have been constantly busy all the time.
For 3 years during the pandemic, Congress required Medicaid programs to keep people enrolled.
It meant that our patients and their families had access to sustained benefits and had access to continuity in their Medicaid benefits. That is life-changing, life-altering.
Now, that continuous enrollment is over.
We've never had 90-some million people enrolled in the program, and we've never tried to do this all at once. So every state across the country is going through this process as we speak.
So far, over 11 million people have lost Medicaid coverage nationwide, according to the Kaiser Foundation's analysis of federal data. In the states that have data available, about 71% of people are losing coverage, not because they're ineligible, rather for procedural reasons, like missing paperwork. The sudden volume now putting a strain on states.
Just about a quarter of all the children losing Medicaid are in Texas. This is huge. We've never seen a decline like this.
The HSSC telling NBC News that as of December, it is taking an average of 60 days to complete an application for Medicaid. But Texas lawmakers want more. Over the summer, Congressman Lloyd Doggett and a dozen of his Democrat colleagues urged the Biden administration to take action and have since continued to push the agency to ensure the enrollment process is timely.
And without federal intervention, more and more Texans, pregnant women, children, individuals with disability will be denied health care when they should not be.
The Biden administration telling NBC News that they were working with Texas to fix the problem.
We have met with the state, we have reviewed, and we did require Texas to reinstate over 90,000 people that were incorrectly disenrolled from the program.
This fall, HHS announced that 500,000 children regained coverage after working with states on reported systems issues. In the interim, as state agencies wrap up this year's Medicaid eligibility checks, community health care clinics like Dr. Forner's are stepping up.
For someone who has a chronic disease or a disability, a lapse in coverage can actually cause their existing medical condition to worsen significantly.
Zinclair Samoa, NBC News.
Welcome back. Let's take a quick look around the world. A vicious storm is hitting the UK, causing significant damage and bringing strong, gusty winds. Here's an example of how strong those winds are. A plane arriving yesterday from LA struggled to land at London's Heathrow Airport. Keep in mind, there was no report of any injuries.
Listen to it. It's over the top of me now. Oh, 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 stop it. Oh, 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 stop that. Oh my God, mate.
Whoa, would not want to be on that plane. All right, North Korea's President Kim Jong-un is calling on his military to ramp up war preparations, saying the move is in response to what he calls unprecedented confrontation. Moves by the U.S., but he didn't specify what they were. He made comments today while addressing policy concerns heading into the new year. These types of speeches by Kim Jong-un are typically released on New Year's Day. Conservative politicians in Russia are quite upset over a recent party where attendees wore next to nothing. The party was hosted by a Russian TV presenter who said the dress code was, quote, almost naked. But when pictures of the party surfaced online, the backlash was swift, including 2 weeks in jail for a Russian rapper violating the country's new anti-gay law for having gone to the party wearing only a sock on his genitals. And the architect of the modern European Union has died. Jacques Delors removed barriers that eventually led to the blueprint for the European Central Bank and the euro currency, which is now the official tender for the 20 of the 27 EU nations. Jacques Delors was 98. The state of conflict around the world has been impossible to ignore in 2023, particularly in 2 places. Russia's war in Ukraine is moving into its 3rd winter, where Russian President Vladimir Putin seems obsessed with retaking, quote, original Russian lands, while Israel's bombardment of Gaza heads into its 12th week, with seemingly no end in sight. NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel examines both of these wars and the implications they might have for the rest of the world in the year to come.
Ukraine's military this year faced a harsh reality check. Russia fortified its grip on eastern Ukraine and is refusing to let it go. With some of the fiercest fighting taking place in the city of Bakhmut.
Russian forces have now surrounded Bakhmut on 3 sides, and this is the only remaining route in and out of the city that Ukrainian forces can use.
Civilians who remained were driven into underground bunkers without power or heat. Ukraine threw everything it could at Russia in a long-anticipated counteroffensive. The United States backing President Zelensky with weapons and money. Vladimir Putin turning to mercenaries from the Wagner Group, led by his one-time caterer. The mercenaries fought or were shot. And the caterer turned commando, Yevgeny Prigozhin, grew so powerful that he turned against the Kremlin and marched on Moscow before having second thoughts. He died when his plane exploded in midair. U.S. officials believe Putin had him killed. And the war continued, with Ukraine and Russia firing so much artillery, both sides nearly ran out. Zelensky pleading to Washington for more. Putin turning to North Korea's Kim Jong-un. But so far, Ukraine's counteroffensive has accomplished little more than a stalemate. Political support in the United States is now in question.
Several Republican presidential candidates are expressing concerns about support for Ukraine.
Що я можу сказати? А готовий сенатор чи той чи інший кандидат, які вважають, що це дороговартісно для Сполучених Штатів підтримувати Україну, вони готові піти на війну, воювати, відправити своїх дітей, вони готові загинути.
And then Israel had its 9/11. On October 7th, Hamas-led militants stormed Israel from Gaza, killing more than 1,200 people, most of them civilians, and taking 240 hostages, including many women and children. The militants rained fire into Israel.
Stay down, stay down.
Israel responded with a ferocious military assault on the Gaza Strip to root out Hamas for good, flattening entire neighborhoods. President Biden has insisted that the U.S. can and must support two allies at once.
We cannot and will not let terrorists like Hamas and tyrants like Putin win.
The war in Israel brought to the surface long-held pain and anger, with massive pro-Palestinian protests calling for a ceasefire, and pro-Israel demonstrators raising their voices against rising anti-Semitism.
Bring them home.
A week-long ceasefire between Israel and Hamas brought a brief moment of calm and saw more than 100 hostages freed in exchange for Palestinian prisoners. But negotiations collapsed, each side blaming the other. More than 20,000 people have died in Gaza so far, about 70% of them women and children, according to the health ministry run by Hamas. Aid agencies say the 2.3 million people in Gaza are suffering a humanitarian collapse as pressure is mounting on Israel to bring the war to an end. But there's no agreement on who will run Gaza if or when Hamas is defeated. Richard Engel, NBC News.
Before we go, it's time for the future of everything. 2023 was a year for advancements in space. We'll take a look at some of the biggest sky-high accomplishments, so stay tuned. Welcome back. Time now for the future of everything. Tonight, we're taking a look back at the year in space exploration. But first, we start with what's going on here on Earth. Climate change has made 2023 a record-breaking year. It's set to be the hottest year on record, and we have already seen the effects of warmer temperatures. From wildfires to floods, it's been a year of deadly weather. But surprisingly, there were also a few things to celebrate. NBC's climate reporter Chase Kane has more.
2023 goes down as the hottest year in human history, likely hotter than any time in 125,000 years. So, yeah, covering climate change can be a bit gloomy. But there are things we can celebrate, too. Here are 5 wins for climate action as we head into the new year. First, wind and solar power have never been cheaper. They're now clearly the cheapest way to generate power. And a report from think tank Energy Innovation says it costs less to build brand new wind or solar than it costs to keep an existing coal power plant open. And that is fueling things like agrivoltaic.
Which doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, but does make sense, right? It's where you're partnering the photovoltaic, the solar generation, with agricultural usage.
Pivot Energy built these win-win-win panels in Denver. Locals can buy clean energy without any panels on the roof, and their all-natural lawnmowers help farmers too.
The farmer that we partner with on that is able to have his flock there. We actually also have beehives on the site as well to pollinate the grasses, and there's a beekeeper that uses that, and obviously gets the revenue from the honey from it as well.
Speaking of money, tax breaks on electric vehicles helped Americans embrace the fossil fuel-free future. EV sales could top 1.4 million this year. That's almost 1 in 10 new cars sold, a new record for the U.S. And more good news for Motor City. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer signed one of the most aggressive transitions to clean energy for any state, targeting 100% renewables by 2040.
So I think it's exciting because Michigan is very much a purple state, but also a very heavy manufacturing state, can go forward into a clean energy economy. That's something that we all need to do in a way that protects our businesses and shows other states how we can do it in a state that isn't traditionally a blue state.
And looking to 2024, a majority of registered voters, 58%, think global warming is serious enough that the president should declare a climate emergency. Research from Yale and George Mason also shows solid majorities from both parties also support climate-friendly policies from Congress. And that kind of broad support could very well shape 2024's critical elections. So this is a good reminder to make sure your voter registration is up to date. In New York, I'm national climate reporter Chase Kane.
As we close out 2023, there's a lot of buzz about what's going to happen in space in 2024. NBC's Tom Costello is here to break down some of the year's biggest space achievements and what's to come. And Tom, a lot of this is centered around a man named Elon Musk, right?
Yeah, that's right. Elon Musk, of course, owns SpaceX, and SpaceX right now provides the only way American astronauts can right now get to space on an American rocket. And America's future hopes and dreams for space depend on SpaceX. That rocket roar and cheering coming from South Texas in November
Stage separation.
was for a much improved second test of Elon Musk's Starship after the first Starship exploded shortly after liftoff. This time, all 33 engines fired in perfect unison, while the booster was lost in a spectacular explosion 3 minutes after launch.
And as you can see, the Super Heavy booster has just experienced a rapid, unscheduled disassembly.
The uncrewed second stage climbed 92 miles high, well into space, before self-destructing.
We got so much data, and that will all help us to improve for our next flight.
NASA and America have strapped their dreams to that SpaceX rocket. That next flight will be early next year. Then late in the year, NASA's Artemis astronauts will loop around the moon. In 2022, an Artemis test flight orbited the moon with no crew. That is the spaceship that will take the Artemis II crew to an orbit around the moon for the first time in more than 50 years. This is a 9-day mission, 250,000 miles just to get there. And this ship is nothing like Apollo to carry Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. It is much more advanced, much more automated. Already, they're training at NASA's Johnson Space Center. Mission Commander Reed Weissman, pilot Victor Glover, mission specialist Christina Cook, and Canadian fighter pilot Jeremy Hansen.
I'm most looking forward to paving the way for the future, back to the moon, onto Mars. The fact that we get to contribute to that, absolutely an honor, the honor of my life.
And we are proud to be a part of the Artemis generation. We are the Artemis generation, and we are going back to the moon.
Later this decade, NASA hopes Artemis and Elon Musk's Starship will rendezvous in lunar orbit, then land on the moon's south pole and begin building a lunar base. China wants to land its own astronauts there by 2030. But NASA Chief Bill Nelson says America's return to the moon will not be an Apollo repeat.
We're going back to the moon. It's actually a different moon. We're going to the South Pole.
The South Pole, which may hold frozen ice water, critical for a future moon base and a potential source of rocket fuel for missions onto Mars. It's why India landed a probe there in 2023, and it's the same region that China is targeting for a human landing. The new space race seems likely to pick up speed in 2024.
Tom, I think the space race is really between us and China, and we need to protect the interest of the international community.
Also in 2024, Boeing is hoping to finally launch its Starliner spaceship with astronauts to the space station. Many years delayed and well behind arch-rival SpaceX. And billionaire entrepreneur Jared Isaacman will command Polaris Dawn, another private mission with 3 others in a SpaceX rocket set to reach the highest Earth orbit ever flown. I caught up with them training in Colorado.
Why do this? Why do we need to go into space? I mean, there are questions that we've been asking ourselves since like the dawn of civilization, right? That we don't know the answers to.
Polaris Dawn mission will also feature the first ever spacewalk involving a private astronaut. And they will continue raising money for St. Jude Children's Hospital. The first mission back in 2021 raised $250 million for St. Jude. Back to you.
That does it for us tonight. I'm Dasha Burns. We'll see you tomorrow. But until then, stay tuned now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.